Hello, everyone. It's a sad day in the world of sports. It's a sad day, and for everyone, words can't really describe, what the magnitude of this man's death and what it's meant to everyone, not only in the sports world but everywhere. It's a sad day, and I don't know how to describe it. I can't even come up with any words. I'm usually pretty good with you know the power of the language and so forth, but this is it's I'll tell you what even hurts more is that the fact that um, and actually what would have been even worse. I can't think of anything worse than this man losing his life with his daughter in a helicopter crash. Um, but what would have been even worse was if he was still playing, if he was still active and playing for the Lakers, being on that helicopter with his daughter. I mean, I does it soften the pain or the devastation of his demise? Not really, but there's always a saying things can be worse. I personally don't fly. I mean, I'm not for fly. I don't take helicopter. I've never been in a helicopter, and I have no intention of ever being in one. I don't care how safe claim they are. Once you're up in the air, and anything can happen. Uh, Aircraft, planes, they're pretty safe. They claim they're safer than you know uh, driving, but a helicopter, you're like, I don't know. It's just something that I would not recommend. Um, you know, uh, there was a lot of fog, and from what I was reading, that maybe they should not have taken a helicopter, but the traffic in LA can cause a lot of problems. And I could understand his wanting to get there without sitting in 6 hours of traffic. Supposedly he missed a school play at one time and waiting in traffic. But sometimes, one thing about when you're driving, you control your own destiny. Um, Most of the time, you know. But there are some times when you just, somebody could go in the wrong way on the highway and head on, and then that's it. It's over, and slam right into you. It's not your fault. Most of the time when you're driving, you're in control of your own destiny. But this is like a freak accident that shouldn't have happened, man. It's sad. I just I just can't understand why there's still people out there that try to be mean and evil and hate. The man just lost his life. He lost his life. His daughter is dead. Um, and now this lady has to raise three children by herself. Um, how do you comprehend something like this? How are you able to deal with this? It's just, and then when I first heard the news, I said to myself, the first thing that hit me was, and I know a lot of times in death, crazy little things will hit you before grief sets in. So my first reaction was that, wow, all that money buys nothing, Um, it's it's just so freaking sad to have to deal with something like this. For this man to who was basically larger than life. He was an icon. He was a sports figure. Um, I'd say he's probably the second greatest NBA player of all time, behind Michael Jordan. And he was more of a teammate than Jordan was, as far as, not putting pressure on his own teammates. He was a likable guy, a down-to-earth guy, just nothing but, I mean, you just look at him, he just, you know, positivity resonates in his smile, you know. I stopped following, I mean, not stopped, but I, I wasn't as interested in pro basketball at the time that he was drafted. I was more of a 70s and 80s fanatic with, the New York Knicks. I mean, if he was with the Knicks, oh my God, I can't even describe. But I never liked the Lakers. They always pried away all the great players from the Knicks, and they were the Lakers and the Celtics were my arch enemies. I hated anyone that played for that team. They were like the Golden Boys. They always managed to win, and they always managed to win championships. And destiny was supposedly on the Knicks side after '73, but it didn't work out that way. But anyway, let's get away from that for a moment. I remember the 1996 draft, and at the time I wasn't following the NBA as diligently as I was back in the day. But I remember when Allen Iverson was drafted number one by the 76ers, and he turned out to be one hell of a player. But as I look down the line from the rest of the players, Marcus Camby was decent. He played with the Knicks for a while, journeyman kind of player. He's a good rebounder. Sharif Rahim, never. Stephen Marbury was made his mark for a while, but then he had some good years. I mean, a lot of these players that were drafted in the first 5 or 6 positions in that draft were they were destined for supposed greatness. Ray Allen was I mean, he's a Hall of Famer right there. Antoine Walker had some issues. Lorenzo Wright, a bust. Kerry Kittle's decent. I mean, I go down the line here. And then we get to Kobe Bryant, okay? And it was actually the property of the Charlotte Hornets that was traded to the Lakers. And I remember very vividly that draft. Kobe Bryant was 18 years old, and he came right out of high school. And he was like a can't miss. I mean, he was almost like, they predicted he was going to be, they predicted greatness for him. I mean, he was like, a lot of people were jealous. They said, well, this kid's 18 years old, and now all of a sudden they gave him a $3 million contract. That's the contract that he got when he signed, I think, a 3-year deal with the Lakers. And then I had, which was so crazy, was that the Nets had a chance to grab him, and they didn't want to take a chance. Players out of high school, it's hit and miss. I mean, it's like a gamble. But this man was a legend, okay? I never thought that he would achieve or he would be as great as he became. I really did not think, because it was like the first 2 seasons he kind of struggled, and he was getting down on himself, and it wasn't a bust, but definitely, he was in the learning process. And then you go and you see this just tells it all, man. I mean, the guy was awesome. 5 championships: 99, 2000, 2001, 8, 9, and then his last season, and 81 points. That's the second highest amount of points scored by any NBA player, with the exception of Wilt Chamberlain. I always thought Wilt was the greatest. I always had him pegged at number one ahead of Jordan. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, I'm gonna always receive a lot of heat from that, but Wilt was Wilt. Okay, you guys don't remember, but I used to watch him play, and he was as dominating as LeBron James, and just to have him on the court spoke volumes. Okay, but let's get away from that. Kobe, in his last game with the Lakers, and this is after Achilles heel injury and whatever, 60 points, okay? Last game of his career, 60 points. That just tells it all right there. I mean, and then after, when he retired, he transitioned into, what I loved about him so much was his work ethic. He never gave up. And when reporters would ask him, well, what do you think? They say, Jordan was better than you in his time. Jordan was a greater player. Will Chamberlain he said he didn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to be compared to anyone else. And he'll never argue that as well. He just moves on to the next phase of his life. That's it. He's not going to, like some of these players, they sit back there like Kevin Durant, how could you say that he's a better rebounder, a better scorer than I was? Well, never bothered with that, man. He just moved on, like I said, and transitioned himself to his next goal. And he had loads of, he had so much to give. I think he one of his dreams was to see women actually play in the NBA, and he had even mentioned a few names. He reeled off a few. I forgot who they were, but he said they were more talented than some of the actual NBA players out there. And it's just so sad, man. To see something like this evolve into a tragedy that's beyond belief. And I'm not in no way, shape, or form going to project how long he would have lived. But let's be safe. A more credible prediction would be 2065, of a lifespan of about 85 years. And then we could have said, hey, you know what? The guy did what he did. He's old, and we accept death from the greats of all greats when they hit the certain age, or and then hey, then it's time to rest in peace. But the way this happened, I mean, to just die like that in a plane crash, in a helicopter crash. I mean, it's almost as senseless as that Chapman that killed John Lennon. I mean, it was the two names that come to mind when you say, well, where were you when this happened? They're starting to reel off a whole bunch of names of celebrities that really don't sort of live up to or can measure up to JFK and John Lennon. Those were the two where you could actually say that where were you at that time, at that moment. Michael Jackson, I mean, I don't want to get into, because then it'll lead to other arguments. But those two, Lennon and JFK, you could easily, make that choice that those two, you could come to the conclusion that those two were, larger than life heroes. And I'm going to throw Kobe in there with them. It was Lennon, Kobe and JFK. Okay, and unfortunately, I think I was on some sleazy blog site where people leave all kinds of crazy, um, you know, opinions about different topics and stuff. And like I said, it just blurted up on there that it was just like a TMZ kind of a site. I actually think TMZ is more credible than any of these other, social media sites. And it said that confirmed Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter accident. I still didn't believe it, so I went to ESPN. That's the first major legitimate site that I'm going to actually get the most out of as far as the truth. And it did actually confirm that it was totally fucked up. So, I don't know what to say. I feel for for his wife, children. Wife doesn't even care about the money. No, money means nothing. It's like it's your health and your life that come before anything. Money can always be recycled. And as an NBA fan, as a fan of the sport since 1969, as a little kid watching the Knicks and watching the NBA evolve and the great players that have come along during that time, and the Chamberlains and the Michael Jordans and the Earl Monroes and the Dr. J's and thing. And sadly that this man was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in a few months. The NBA, it's so beyond sad. What irked me most was that the NBA decided to allow the games to be played on the eve of his death. That was cold, man. They've made so much money off Kobe Bryant, and they've made so much money on it, period. One night moratorium, for God's sake. I would do a week, okay, but that's pushing it. Many were actually saying they should close down the Grammys and postpone it for another. Well, that's not relevant to what happened. Okay, they can't close down a major event like that because I think that if the president died, unless they would still the show must go on as far as Grammys or award shows. Just it happened to be at the Staples Center, so. Yeah, so I don't know. I just this is like so sad, man. It's I'm not at the point where I actually have tears, but it hit me, man. This is so tragic. I mean, it's almost like, it was funny. I was out yesterday driving, and even the aggressive drivers took a break. They actually took it easy on me for once. Usually I have somebody tailing me left and right and blowing the horn and giving me the finger, and I guess this really hit home. It's almost like a famous president getting assassinated, and I'm just hoping they'll name some kind of. I'm sure that they'll be, like they have the Bill Russell Award. I'm sure they'll come up with something for Kobe Bryant as far as that's concerned. I see that it's just so sickening. 41 years of age, and he had a lot more to accomplish. He was, this was just a man that, an entrepreneur, just a great human being, and he was looking to accomplish even more and more and more, and basketball was just one phase of his life, and then he was going to move on to other ventures, and it's sad as hell, man. So anyhow, I'm going to let this go for now. Hopefully, we can. You never forget, but it's going to be in the minds of a lot of people for quite some time. people all over the world, international celebrities. I may have failed to mention that he was an international hero as well as an American hero. So we will miss this man, and I think it's going to be quite some time before anyone comes along that is able to live up to his legacy. That's all I have to say for now. Anyhow, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and you know, stay well. And just remember that life is short, and we can be here one day, and the next day we're gone. So take that into perspective. Live every moment, and I'll see you soon.